Namaste and welcome to the Divas That Care Network. I am your host, Gia-Raquel Rose, owner of Airs Above Yoga, and you're listening to Above the Ground podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, we are headed into our 15th year at Divas That Care and listened to in over 30 countries. I would like to take this moment to personally thank you for the gift of your time. As always, it is my honor to hold space with you. And for our little sequence, this month, we are going to talk a little bit about our Ayurveda nutrition episode about the upper chakras. So, deep diving into the upper chakras, the third eye and crown chakra, as we have with our talk about inversions, and as we did with our meditation on bringing things into fruition to create. So, bringing from the mind out into reality for your highest and best good, and hopefully that of the planet and the universe and the world. And also always just thinking about, being of the highest and best good, right? For all, right? Harm to none, good of all is, I think, a great place to come from when we're talking about creation and when we're talking about just being yourself out in existence and, how you can best support the space around you by being your best self for others. And I think that that's very, very important. And I think that oftentimes, as I talked about a bit, and I encourage you please to go back and listen to those two earlier episodes that are kind of the tie-in for the nutrition aspect, right? We're talking about our physical, mental, emotional, etheric, and spiritual health, right? All of it. And so you can't really have, it's all about balance. You can't really have, and I don't think anything brings balance to the forefront quite like an inversion practice, but you have to have balance throughout all things. So it's going to be very, very hard for you to be completely sedentary or completely, based on a diet that is lacking in nutrients and, high in, let's just say, less than supportive foods, whether they are trans fats, whether they are heavy diets that are very grain based, or, and I don't want to just say that grains are bad by any means, but heavy carbohydrate based, or, you want to have a balance at life. And, the yoga teacher training, I'll give a little plug to her. Stephanie's business is called Diva Leela, and that was who I did my first teacher training with back way back in 2011. And that means, I believe it means divine play. And so she was a very animated woman, and I was very grateful to study with her. And to that end, it's like, we're bringing this idea of embodiment when we talk about yoga and having your body be the physicality of the body be representative of having the chakras aligned, bringing forth into the physical the spiritual, and acting literally within the space around you, using your body as your medium to spirit, in theory, right? If you want to take it that way. Otherwise, for those that just like to do downward facing dog, I don't mean to push any buttons. And so I hope that you enjoy your practice for the physical benefits it brings you, if nothing more, the detoxification benefits that it brings you, if nothing more. And then when we talk about the meditation, that's where we start to move from the physicality of those lower chakras up through, right? Our voice, our fifth chakra, our third eye, and our intuition, right? Our divine crown connection to source chakra. And so when we're talking about these upper chakras and we're talking about nutrition to support them, it's kind of a fun one, because generally speaking, and what I do love about Ayurveda and what I do love about eating for your chakras or supporting the chakras is the literal in the figurative, right? So chakras are associated with colors, right? From the colors of the rainbow, essentially, from the root being your red, your base, your safety, orange at your sacrum for your creativity, yellow at the center for your power center, green at your heart as the bridge, then basically a blue, if you will, like a turquoisey blue at the throat chakra, and then moving to more of an indigo blue at the third eye chakra, and finally either a gentle violet or a white is usually associated with the crown chakra. And so what I love about the literalness of it is the fact that the foods generally are associated with the color. So when we're talking about our third eye and our crown, a lot of the foods actually align because they're going to be your deeper, darker purple and blue sorts of fruits and or vegetables. So if we're being literal, think veggies, think your purple carrots, think your purple cauliflower, think cauliflower in general because it also is white, so it can align with the white theory of the crown chakra as well. Think about your blueberries, your blackberries, your eggplants, right? Any of those foods. But if you're noticing a theme here, the general theme is light and fresh. And the reason for that is because as we start to move from the density of the earthly plane in the lower chakras and in the root that connects you to the earth, you move into the lighter upper chakras, and the crown literally has, in theory, right, because this is like a whole separate episode or multiple episodes to unpack, but the crown chakra in theory doesn't have a grounded location. Sure, it's at the crown of your head, but your third eye is literally in the middle. So the crown chakra literally, in theory, sits above the head, right? So it doesn't actually have necessarily a tangible physical location. So when we talked about asana to support it, there was a lot of head bowing, there was downward facing dogs, there was moving energy upside down from the root up to the crown, getting the idea of bringing these more etheric planes into recognition, into the forefront. And so to do that with food, let's talk a little bit specifically about the third eye, because there's a little bit more when we talk about the crown chakra with regard to food that I want to touch on because it gets a little bit different. When we're talking about the third eye, we can still relate with the rest of the chakras simply because it's technically tangible. There go my air quotes for those of you that are not watching, because it's still situated generally in the middle of the forehead, representative of the pineal gland. Again, that's a whole other can of worms I'm not going to open because we're going to talk about the nutrition aspect. But we're thinking about foods that don't weigh you down, foods that provide energy, foods that, unless you are allergic to, are considered generally healthy for you, and foods that are going to have a very, very high nutrition content. And what they are not going to have is a high sugar content. What they are not going to have is a high, I shouldn't say high fat, but generally for the third eye, if we're not talking about the crown chakra, but the third eye chakra, a lesser fat content, and certainly not more of a trans fat content. We're not going to think about our really thick and heavy carbohydrates, right? We're going to think more of those gentle, lighter carbohydrates, like, let's say, for example, a purple carrot or potentially even a purple sweet potato. So even if they do have a little bit of density to them, they are going to have those lighter, more easily processed, beneficial. They're going to have a lot of fiber. They're going to have nutrient-based carbohydrates rather than kind of filler carbohydrates. Think like corn, right? Think like bread, right? There can be nutrients in them. They are not without nutrients, but they are more for calorie content and true energetic carbohydrate rather than the nutrient value of them. And so to that end, we're thinking about the continuation of light and fresh. And with that in mind, even though it's not purple, one of the, I will call it the gateway vegetable, was going to be your cabbage. So if you think cauliflower and you think cabbage, you think they have purple varieties, they have white varieties. Those are both going to link over. And even though they are not white or purple, our leafy greens are always going to be beneficial for most chakras, but definitely for the upper chakras because they are, again, very, very light, very, very nutrient based, very nutrient forward. They're not going to weigh you down as you move through your day, and they're going to help to detoxify the body. Now, why is that important? Moving from the third eye to the crown chakra, there's arguments to be made that that food in and of itself is not necessarily a support of the crown chakra, and that the opposite is a support of the crown chakra, meaning fasting. So I encourage you to go back and listen to an episode that I did a little while back called Too Fast or Not Too Fast. I'm not going to go as nearly deep as I did on that particular episode. However, for this one, it's not just about fasting, but it's the idea of detoxification, of cleansing, right? So not fasting for the sake of weight loss, not fasting for the sake of, nutrient deprivation. And there are there are tons of benefits to fasting, and I do encourage you to look them up. But there are also some risks associated with it, which is why I always kind of am trepidatious with when I speak about it or bring it up. It is not for everyone. And so when we talk about the detoxification aspects of the crown chakra, you are beginning to, again, as we move up from density to lightness, you are beginning to clear the channel of your body. And one of the most beneficial things for the crown chakra is detoxification, is clearing those channels, is making way in the denser channels to receive energy from the crown down, from source, from your higher self, whatever, I say that all the time, whatever you want to call it, down into your body, into your heart space, into your inner knowing, through your third eye, right? For processing, if you will, and just have this connection, foster this connection between your body, your mind, and your spirit, hopefully. And so with that in mind, there are some foods that will help with the detoxification process, and those leafy greens are going to be one of them. Garlic is another one. If you are not, people that are on a low FODMAP diet generally take issue with onion and garlic. I also don't prefer, my body doesn't respond super well to a lot of onion and garlic, even though I'm Italian and Spanish. So it's like, I don't know what happened in my gene pool that made me not love oil and garlic and all of the onions, but because I do love them, they are delicious, but my body does not love me back when I ingest them in any sort of frequency. So, there are garlic pills for detoxification, and I encourage you to look up all of the potential benefits for, garlic in general, because it is if you don't have a reason to avoid it, then it can be a very, very beneficial food to incorporate into your diet, one of the healthiest ones without an aversion to it. So with that in mind, garlic is a great detox. And then, you think about your beverages, think about cleansing, right? So we talk about detoxing, we're flushing toxins from our body, and liquids, hydration is the best way to do that. So one of the things to avoid for both upper chakras, your third eye and your crown, are going to be anything heavy, anything dense. Now, so I'm not going to say, because I'm on a paleo diet. I've talked about that a lot. And again, I'd always prefer to be vegetarian. So it's just my body does. Same reason I can't enjoy the garlic as much as I would like to. I do tend to feel better and kind of get cravings for meat. Unfortunately, for my mental and emotional state, my physical state does require that in some form, some lean protein. So without getting too much on that, think of your like heavier, denser, fattier meats. Any sort of animal proteins, in theory, save maybe egg, are going to be more weighty. They're just going to, take you, while they're great for the body and they are beneficial for some of those denser chakras. For your upper chakras, you're thinking that you want to keep things light. And so saturated fats, heavy, dense carbohydrates, heavy, dense meat, things that are going to make you like think Joey Tribbiani in his Thanksgiving pants, right? Things that are going to make you want to unclip your buckle are not going to be supportive of your third eye and crown chakras. But your blueberries, again, think your fresh smoothies. Even when we talk about, we have the third eye centered in the brain, the crown above. So think about healthy fats that support your brain health, something like nuts and seeds, right? Maybe coconut milk, those types of things, almond milk, those types of things that are going to, again, processed is not always great, but we don't live in a perfect society. So when we talk about, detoxification, general processed foods, which include nut milks, coconut milks, for like fruit juices, those types of things, those are going to be included because they are technically processed. Now, that being said, I drink coconut water in my smoothies every morning, and while yes, it is processed, I still consider it to be beneficial for my health. And so taking everything with a bit of a grain of salt and understanding that you need to meet yourself where you are and live in the reality of the world that we live in, and be grateful that we have access to fresh ready, maybe not totally fresh, but ready coconut water shipped to us via Amazon, or that we can go and pick up allergen-free milk alternatives at the grocery store if we are dairy-free, those types of things. So think about when you're detoxing, much like the fasting episode, crystal clear beverages. And those, and to that end, clear does not this is counteracted by those beverages containing alcohol and caffeine. So while there can be benefits to your matchas, your coffees, right? For our intents and purposes, just with regard to the crown chakra and detoxification, alcohol and caffeine are not going to support the crown chakra. So we want to think about our decaffeinated herbal teas. We want to think about potentially, using herbs in the teas. For example, you might make a tea with ginger. You might make a tea with turmeric. You might make even golden milk. And I love golden milk, golden milk is kind of like a latte. And again, it's not going to be clear because milk is implied. You're going to use some form of milk, but again, it is going to be beneficial for the cleansing and the flushing of toxins out of the body. So whether it's chamomile tea, whether you can go to your local health food store and pick up milk thistle tea, which is great for the liver. There's a bunch of different brands that serve for cleansing, detoxifying, and restoring, the body to its natural, hopefully toxin-free state, which I don't think we can ever be toxin-free in our first world existence. But we strive to be conscious, and I think if nothing else, when we're talking about the upper chakras, becoming conscious and heightened in our consciousness is really what it's all about. And so we've talked about how to do that a bit with the body when we're talking about our inversion practices and our humbling ourselves and meeting our third eye with the ground, grounding and bringing some density up to those chakras to bring them into our awareness, right? Not in a descending way, but just simply to begin to cultivate a relationship. Because if you're not a yoga practitioner, if you're not into the health and wellness thing the way that I have been, the way that I am, then this might be new to you, and you may not have a relationship with your chakras at all, or maybe you're just starting to learn about them. But the bottom line is that bringing your conscious awareness to your body first, right? Whether that's through yoga, through running, whether that's through any sort of physical exercise, bringing your awareness to your body when you sleep, bringing your awareness to your body, just consciously choosing to check in with your body is a huge first step. And kudos to anyone that has done that at least once. Great job. I applaud you. Lots. Great job. Moving that consciousness up from the recognition of the body to the recognition of the breath, to beginning to consciously change your mood by breathing, to and I will kind of chuckle as I say this. Some people around me, when I get upset, I tend to breathe like this. And people will know that about me, that if I start to breathe like that, it's a little bit of an alarm bell, like danger, danger. It's a danger alarm, because I am using my breath to calm my nervous system. And I talked a little bit during the meditation episode about alternate nostril breathing and how you can go to that. Let's say if you're driving in traffic and you're starting to get wound up, because we do live in an existence where we get wound up and we have stresses and we have, the mundane is not going away just because we're trying to elevate and raise our consciousness. It's still, and then there's laundry, right? Forgive me because I don't know who to give that quote to, but it wasn't me. I definitely heard it somewhere else, and I believe it was might even be the title of a book. But there is the deep meditations that bring you to insight and to intuition, and then you still have to walk your dog and pick up their poop, or you still have to go about your day and go to work, and you still have to wake up to a buzzing alarm clock, because this is the world that we live in. And so when we do all of these things, we are essentially trying to bring our awareness higher, to feed our body with nutrients that support it so that it can best support us, bringing it into balance. And balancing your chakras means to start to pay attention and give awareness to the chakras that we may not necessarily pay that much attention to. Our physical body, our root chakra probably screams at us a lot. People have lower back pain, they'll have hip pain, right? If you have, an issue maybe in your heart chakra, you may have a slump, you may be hunched over, right? If your power center is lacking, or you're not feeling strong, or not, projecting yourself, you may have, a weak core. Our lower chakras, scream at us. So they are there and they are reaching out for attention. But our upper chakras, if we're not developing, they can often go dismiss. Everyone has the power to connect with their intuition. Everyone has the capacity to reach these states of awareness. You just have to practice. You just have to make a conscious choice to get there. And hopefully incorporating some of these foods, some of these little sneaky healthy habits into your day to day will help you to get there. So when we're talking again about our crown chakra and about foods that support it or the lack thereof, again, think about the crown and the third eye. In my mind, I've always been, the closest of the two chakras because not only for their proximity, right? But the crown chakra is basically your connection to your higher self, your higher power, the divine source, God, whatever you choose to believe in or not is totally respected by me. But it is that connection to source. It's not there in the physical. So we think about clearing the channel and remembering remembering how much power our brain truly has. Empower yourself through what is best for your body and for your mind. And by clearing that channel, by eating those healthy, nutrient dense foods, by living lightly, right? Step lightly, live lightly, leave little impact unless it's a positive one, do no harm. These are all principles of, I'm going to throw it back to when Anne was on and we talked about sustainability. Conscious awareness is the first step towards any forward motion in a positive way, and clearing your channels to create the space to become more mindful, to say, oh, I'm going to eat some blueberries this morning because I want to connect with my intuition. I'm going to bring my awareness to that connection with my intuition. I want to be able to receive guidance about what the next best step is for me in my life. And I want to be able to create from a place of inspired and aligned action. And how am I going to do that if I'm living totally in my lower chakras, in pain, in fear, and out of alignment? And so we talk a lot about the lower chakras, but for right now, I want to bring our attention up a little bit. And I want us to focus on things that are going to support our connection with our higher selves, with our divine purpose, and with our third eye and crown chakras. Because let's face it, those are the path. That is the divine path. That is what is going to be able to get us into a place of love, receptivity, consideration for others, and consideration starts with yourself. Being considerate to yourself first, making healthy choices for your body, healthy choices for your mind, setting clear boundaries, detoxing from things that no longer serve you, whether they are random stops to fast food restaurants and potential taking a little bit longer of a drive to go to a farmer's market, whether they are knowing that your body doesn't align with garlic. And so things that might be beneficial for detox for one person are not going to be beneficial for you. Knowing that you might have a nut allergy. So anything I said about nut milk goes right out the window for you. Knowing that you need to come together with yourself, know your body, find out what about your body is out of alignment, whether it's for an allergy, whether it's for a lack of your awareness, and start to really get to know yourself first. And then you can begin to clear these channels. And then you can begin to open up and inspire and be the best version of yourself for yourself, your loved ones, the world around you, and so that you can shine. shine, and I'm going to say sparkle. And I'm going to say connect with that higher version of you that's always there and already knows what the right answer is, even when you do not. And I will be the first one to say that I go to that higher self for answers because I know that my monkey mind is definitely working against me many, many times. And living in that space of fear based reaction as opposed to inspired and aligned action is what we're trying to pivot. And no better way than to flip upside down and begin to develop a relationship with your upper chakras. So I hope that through all of these different resources, tidbits, different ways for you to incorporate those blue and purple and white foods into your diet, thinking about, I won't say eliminating or completely fasting, but thinking about maybe having a part of the day where you drink a lot of water or where you drink a lot of, herbal tea, or just bringing a lot of that idea of clearing the channel through your day. And whether that means clearing the space for your mind, clearing the space for your body, feeding yourself with nutrient dense foods, and living as lightly as possible are all ways to connect to the upper chakras, your higher self, your mind and body, and hopefully, maybe, if you choose to believe in it, your spirit or your higher self. And so I just want to tell each and every one of you how much I appreciate you for sharing your space with me, and ask that you please feel free to share the same with your loved ones. For more goodness, follow me on all the socials at Above the Ground Podcast and visit my website, airsaboveyoga.com. As always, don't forget to check out my other episodes and all of my amazing sisters on divasthatcare.com. You can find us on Spotify, Odyssey, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, or anywhere else that you might feel guided. Again, my name is Gia-Raquel Rose, owner of Airs Above Yoga, and you are listening to Above the Ground podcast, where every day is a good one.